This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted to be joined by Matchroom's Frank Smith here in New York. Frank, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, mate. I've just come back from a run. I didn't see you out there.
You won't be seeing me out there either, mate. It's too cold for me.
No, I think I heard rumours, though, that you were out until about 3, 4 a.m.
I haven't had that joy or experience yet, Frank, so I'm unfortunately having to confine myself to my hotel room. But we're here, obviously, Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos. It's been an exciting build-up, Frank, this week. We obviously saw the clash at the workout, and then yesterday got heated as well at the press conference. What have you made of it all?
It's been great, hasn't it? I think it's been a long time coming, and that's probably built up a little bit more between them all. You know, the anger about how long they've had to wait is probably adding to the tension that you see from both camps. Teofimo's dad, as always, or Teofimo Senior, is great fun. And George's dad, Jim's been good as well. So no, it's been a good build-up. Looking forward to it. It's been, like I say, such a long time coming now. You know, we won the purse bid, or the purse bids were back in February, and you know we're in November now, so 9 months since that. So good to get it up and running, and looking forward to Saturday night now.
Eddie said it can be a fine line between what we've seen this week with regards to the tension and the beef, as it were, between the camps, and then overstepping the mark. How close to the line has it been for you?
It's been all right. It's been a lot of noise and talk, but quite tame. We've seen worse in terms of how heated it can get. But no, it's good. It makes the fight as well, doesn't it? You know, it's all building up to Saturday night. And I'm sure afterwards, although they say they won't, I'm sure they'll embrace after a good fight.
I mean, you say that I wouldn't take, but I've listening to him yesterday. I wouldn't.
Maybe not the dads. You know, maybe Teofimo Jr. and George will embrace.
Throughout the week, Teofimo has been insistent it'll be an early stoppage victory for himself. George is saying he's going to bring war himself as well. But Teo admitted yesterday that the strapping was just covering up I don't know if it's a slight injury or a serious one. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't know anything about whether he's got any, issues. I think all fighters, though, every fighter, every camp will have certain niggles or things that they need to protect as much as possible. So I think a lot of these things you see are much more, protection in a long, hard camp. These guys have been training for a long time as well for this fight. So, after probably 9 months with on and off training throughout, you're going to pick up niggles, you're going to have things, but that's the same for every fighter. So I think we'll see the best of both of them in there on Saturday night.
You said we'll see the best, but what do you expect to see on Saturday night? Is it as simple as it has to catch fire from the first bell, or will it be a slow burner? What are your thoughts?
I think the way they've been with each other means it will catch fire, because naturally that emotion a lot of the time takes over from whether, from sometimes what they plan to go in there and do is taken over completely by the emotion and the anger and, what these last months and weeks have been like. So I think it's going to be an entertaining fight. Teofimo, as you say, says he's going to go in there and do the job early. Be interesting to see how, I think he said 13 months out of the ring now since the Lomachenko fight. Be interesting to see how that affects him as well. But no, it's going to be a good fight, real good fight. Looking forward to it.
I've seen another interview where Teo supposedly said that he's agreed to face Devin Haney next. Is that true? Has it actually been agreed, or is it going off the back of when they bumped into each other, shall we say, after the Garcia Martin fight, and they just said, yeah, we'll face each other?
I think that's what Teofimo Senior said to Eddie, that's a fight we should do next, a massive fight. And the argument around the whole undisputed, that delivers you the answer, doesn't it? If there's any questions around it, that delivers you the answer. Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. And Devin's got a tough fight against Jojo Diaz first as well next week to get through. I believe he does. But, they're both in good fights, and that fight should 100% be next, I believe.
So is it agreed?
Depends what you say agreed. Like, I think they said, yeah, we'll fight him next. That, it's not signed, sealed, delivered, agreed. But it would be great. That's the fight I think everyone wants to see next between those two guys, in my opinion.
Now, I just want to go back to last week. Frank, whilst I've got you, because I know we're on limited time, you've got more important things to do, and you've got a press.
I've got 15 more minutes.
15 minutes, all right. What?
Conference.
Can I keep you for 15 minutes, or do I have to?
Long you want.
Don't say that, Frank. Also going back to Demetrius Andrade's win last weekend, an impressive performance, a statement performance, but that ever-dying question of he needs a test now. Not disrespecting his opponent so far, but he needs to face one of the other top contenders in the division. How confident are you that his next bout will be with a Charlo, a Golovkin, a Murata, just a Eubank, whoever it may be, just somebody who in the 160 division or 168 who will come and give him a tough test?
Yeah, look, 100%. One thing about Demetrius Andrade, though, it's never been his fault he hasn't necessarily faced the people you want to see him in against. He would openly face any of them. You know, would have faced them all in his last 5-6 fights or 4 fights he's worked with us. Charlo's obviously one that we believe we should look. You know, we're aiming to make. Let's see how that plays out. But you know, there's other names as you mentioned. Golovkin could be one. Got the Murata fight obviously at the end of December. But yeah, 100%. You know, we want to make the biggest fights for him. It's always been our plan. You know, and I think let's push hard for the Charlo fight over the next, month or so, see where it plays out. We're open to always working with other people. We want the best opportunities for our fighters. So, hopefully we can get that done. But, one thing I'll say about him is he's always wanted to face the best. And you don't always get that in this sport. You don't always see that. So you have to commend him for that. And he's going to get a lot of slack from the fans, but he deserves some praise because he has... he has wanted the best. He put in a great performance as well against Jason Quigley. He did what he had to do there, going in there, getting the stoppage in the second round. Sometimes in the past he's put him down and then boxed through the next 12 rounds, but he went in there and did what he needed to do, and a great performance. And then afterwards said all the right things.
There's no denying how good of a fight between Charlo and Andrade would be, but Demetrius in his post-fight comments said he's also looked at the fighters on DAZN or with Matchroom. Is there a reason, or what is the reason as to why we haven't yet seen him face a Golovkin, a Munguia, somebody else who's signed with DAZN and Matchroom as well, so far in his career?
I think it's the fact that people don't want to fight him. It's sort of he's his own worst enemy in that sense because he's very good and people don't want to take the risk with him. But Golovkin fight would be great. Munguia should have fought him. He stepped up. He was his mandatory. That always confuses me. We've seen that situation a lot of times, haven't we? When it was Ryan Garcia with Devin Haney. Why would you fight your way into a mandatory position? I know he moved up from the WBO champion, got the mandatory spot, Munguia. But why wouldn't you want to take those tests? Why wouldn't you want the opportunity to win a world title? Demetrius would take those fights tomorrow. But let's see. We'll have to see what happens.
Also this weekend you've got Figueroa Fulton in the unification bout. I said to Eddie yesterday, I imagine you'll echo his words. How confident are you that whoever wins that fight, an undisputed bout can then be made with Murodjon Akhmadaliev?
100% that's our aim, to make that fight in 2022. Murodjon will probably look to fight Ronnie Rios, which was the fight that was supposed to take place at WBA mandatory. 100% we want to make the undisputed fight. Again, that's a case of we're willing to work with anyone. We're willing to do sensible things to make the best fights in boxing. And I believe Akhmadaliev comes out of that as the undisputed champion. So, fingers crossed we can make that happen because he's a real talent. 10 fights I think he's had now, MJ. And to see what he's already done. But he can go on in 2022 and become undisputed champion. So, fingers crossed.
Just going back to this past weekend as well, we saw Terence Crawford stop Sean Porter, the first man to do so in his career. And what seems to be the last with Sean announcing his retirement, unless he was to make a U-turn at some point. Just want to get your take on seeing Terence do so and what kind of statement that sends out to one man in particular in Errol Spence.
I saw a really good clip last night the Top Rank put out around when he was in the corner in the 9th round and they told him he was behind, and then he obviously went out and stopped it from there. He's a special talent. We've known that for years, haven't we? Even when he came over to UK to fight Ricky Burns in was it 2015 maybe, around that sort of time. He's brilliant, and he's another one really where because he's not that much of an outspoken character, really. He does come out with some things, but he's not as big as maybe he could be. Terence Crawford. It's great win for him. I think Errol Spence is the only natural fight out there for him. Again, let's see if that happens. That means two groups of people coming together. Or actually, no, Crawford's a free agent now, isn't he? So maybe that makes it even easier now. But whether Errol Spence wants to fight him, who knows?
Well, I did speak to Eddie yesterday and I said to him, will you guys be looking to kind of put your hat in the ring to see if you can come to some form of an agreement with Terence? And he just admitted there's nobody you guys have at welterweight who you could offer to him, especially knowing the one fight he wants is Errol Spence. Do you agree with that sentiment, or is there anybody you think you could throw into the hat to potentially face Terence?
I think at this stage now, maybe in a year, 2 years' time, as things develop, as fighters develop, there's opportunities. But I think we'd struggle to do it now. You know, he's obviously made good money as well. In the money in the Spence fight is potentially huge. That will be, I'd imagine that would be his focus now. But from our perspective, it's difficult for us to, you know, when you haven't got the right, you need the right dance partners, don't you? And if we haven't got the right people in place now, maybe in a year or two, that may make sense to do something.
Now, Frank, I didn't get a chance to catch up with Eddie about the heavyweight scene in as much detail as I would have liked. Just that, so I'm going to throw some questions. You firstly, what's your understanding of the current situation regarding Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte and Dillian's arbitration case going against the WBC?
As far as I'm aware, the WBC can't decide anything while the arbitration is ongoing. So we'll wait and see. But obviously, Dillian Whyte, he deserves that shot now. You know, he's waited 3 nearly maybe coming up to 4 years now. So, you know, I'm sure that will play out over the coming weeks, and probably before the end of the year we'll have some clarity around that. But, you know, Dillian Whyte's obviously the mandatory challenger, so let's make that fight happen.
I mean, the WBC did say whoever was the interim titleist within that 30-day period would be granted to become the mandatory to Tyson Fury. I don't know many who knew about this arbitration case, which was going on until the WBC convention. So if Dillian was to just drop it, would the WBC then just order the fight?
Again, that's part and parcel of this whole discussion, this ongoing legal arbitration. So I think let's see how that plays out. And but as you say, they made it quite clear in terms of what the situation would be after that 30-day period. So, you know, I'm guessing they'll follow through that. And the next thing will be Bob Arum and his 80-20 splits that he's talking about.
Well, you said it, Frank, so you can carry on.
Was that the next question? That's Bob Arum doing what Bob Arum does, isn't it? You know, he's ultimately got a push for his fighter, but we believe something completely different. You know, Dillian Whyte's a big star. I think it'll be one of the biggest fights in. I know Tyson's obviously had the 3 Wilder fights, but you know, Dillian Whyte fight's massive in the UK. You know, huge. Dillian Whyte's been in many big fights as well across his career. You know, ultimately, Tyson did well out of probably the last Wilder fight. You know, they probably the first was a bit smaller, but you know, Dillian deserves a real fair share of that fight. So again, that's going to be another one that sits with the WBC, isn't it? Another interesting decision.
We saw Tyson, we've seen Tyson being linked to a potential fight with Joe Joyce through Frank and Bob Arum. What's your thoughts? Do you think that one could go ahead, or do you think it will be Dillian next?
I thought he was fighting Savannah Marshall.
I mean, that's another topic if you want to come on to that, Frank.
No, I saw the Joe Joyce talks, but didn't he do an interview yesterday where he said he only wants to fight Anthony Joshua or Usyk? So who knows? There's so many things going on, isn't there? It all gets a bit confusing, but. You know, I can understand why in his mind, where Tyson Fury is, you know, everyone's got their own agenda and what they want to do. He wants to fight Anthony Joshua because he believes that's the biggest fight out there, which even now still is. And then Usyk goes to become the undisputed champion. So I can understand where he's coming from. But let's see how things play out. Things change so quickly in this boxing business, don't they? Next week we could be talking about something completely different. He could be fighting the winner of Tommy Fury and Jake Paul.
Was it ever something which did cross the minds of you guys at Matchroom to allow or to see if maybe AJ did want to step aside, if it could be contractually agreed that no matter who wins between Fury and Usyk, he would then face the winner?
I think, look, ultimately AJ's in charge of his career and what he wants to do. You know, we advise him and work with him on those decisions. But you know, he's going to make the best decisions for his career. So you know, he's straight after that fight, he wanted the rematch against Alexander Usyk. You know, just like he did against Andy Ruiz. So you know, you have to commend him for that. He's never shy of taking a chance, and you know. He will, like I say, make the best decisions for his career. And right now, his focus is on Alexander Usyk.
Frank, just final one on AJ. What's your understanding of his current training situation? Obviously, we know that he came out, spoke to a few trainers. I spoke to Robert Garcia last week, who just filled me in on little details of what him and AJ discussed. I asked him if he had any follow-up conversations, and it was just a silence. Depends on whether people want to read between those lines or not. Is there anything to update me on, or that you know about where AJ's head's at with regards to his current training setup?
I don't think at this time, he's obviously been quite open about his position and where he's up to. He's been taking some time. Obviously, he had a long training camp for the last fight. He's probably going to be back out in March, April next year. So he'll start training in January, I'd expect. And let's wait and see. He's got a good team around him already, who he's working with, and I'm sure going to make the right decision from there. But no further news, unfortunately. Can't break anything for you.
Not yet, Frank. We'll try again tomorrow.
Get me drunk. No.
That'll be easy. It's Thanksgiving, Frank, so apparently that's going to be the aim of everybody tonight. But I appreciate your time as always. I'll leave you to crack on with your conference call because I know it's coming up in a few minutes. So thank you for giving up some time and thank you for speaking to me.
Thanks, mate. Good to see you. Enjoy your night out for Thanksgiving.